Hello, I'm Hussein and I record these highlights videos every weekday or try to. Today's episode is after a long weekend, and I would say let's just get started. Oh, where's the mouse? Yeah. The first one is from The Earned Life. When we fail to play the shot in front of us, we are failing at transition. We are failing to see that something in our world, big or small, has changed irrevocably and we have to deal with the new reality. This is, I'm kind of forgetting which chapter this is from, which section of the book this is from. And I kind of vaguely remember the context over here. It's to do with being in present, and the whole book is about being in present in a way. It's really about making the choices that we can, while we are staying in the present. Really, the past self is somebody else. That's the essence of the book. So when we fail to identify that, what's in front of us, what is it that we need to do right now, we have we have failed to transition. That okay, whatever you need to do right now to move on to who you need to be in the future, you've failed at that. We have failed at the transition. And this is I think, yeah, this context is also about transitions, that all the major changes in life, all the major milestones in life, we go through in life. They're essentially transitions. Transition from being a student to somebody in the industry, or transition from being at an individual contributor level to a more senior level, or a manager level, a management level, or a CEO, or many other transitions. Transition from being a single individual to somebody in a relationship, or from being how do I put this? What's the word? Uh, or becoming a parent. All of these are transitions. So we fail at transition when we fail to see what's right in front of us. Who are we in the present moment? What's needed? What is needed for us to live an earned life? Moving on. Sixth type of working genius. The genius of tenacity is about the satisfaction of pushing things across the finish line to completion. People with this genius are not only capable of, but naturally inclined to, finish projects and ensure that they are completed according to specification. They gain energy by pushing through obstacles and seeing the impact of their work, and they find joy in crossing tasks off the list and getting closure. This is the last genius on the list of the six types of genius. The others, we have talked about the others. Some of the others have come up before, similarly, but very quickly, they are wonder, invention, discernment. G is for galvanizing, enablement, and the final one is tenacity. And the people who, again, the highlighters really mention it, so I don't feel like I need to repeat it. Yeah, but that's about it. Let's move on. Seven and a half lessons about the brain. Sometimes we are responsible for things not because they are our fault, but because we're the only ones who can change them. And I highlighted this because it kind of like felt a weird thing to say in a book about neuroscience. It's quite relevant. It's not ill placed. It's just very insightful that that this is something that affects us physically. Understanding that responsibility doesn't have to be where it is somebody's fault. Uh, like the highlight very clearly says, it's very simple. It's short. It's simple. That sometimes we are responsible because we are the only ones who can change them, not because they are our fault. And in that way, responsibility is not a negative term as such. Yeah, let's move on. Again, seven and a half lessons about the brain. It's impossible to change your past, but right now, with some effort, you can change how your brain will predict in the future. You can invest a little time and energy to learn new ideas. You can curate new experiences. You can try new activities. Everything you learn today seeds your brain to predict differently tomorrow. So, a lot of things to unpack, and especially since we have just reviewed a highlight from Earned Life, so it's like there is a context overload. But in the book, this particular this particular quote where it appears in the book. The section is about how brain makes predictions and how really everything is about prediction. There is an example in this earlier in this chapter where uh, where it describes that when we drink water, the water takes time. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes to enter the blood vessels, but we immediately stop feeling thirsty. We drink a glass of water and we stop feeling thirsty, and that's our brain predicting that, okay, you have just drunk some water, and you don't need to drink anymore. It's kind of predicting that, okay, you are satiated, and that's very important, because if you didn't have that feeling, you'll probably keep drinking water, a lot more water than you needed. So well, that's where the section comes, and this specifically, this quote is talking about how it's impossible to change your past. All the experiences that you've built up, and how all the experiences that have caused your brain to predict the way it does right now. You can't change that, but what you can do is learn learn new ideas, new concepts, new experiences, new activities, and that will take you to that will lead your brain to predict differently. And of course, there is a lot to unpack here. Like I said, this is actually what bias is. When we have a bias, and we all of us, we do have biases of some kind. They are basically learned experiences, and again, we can't change those experiences. What we can do is learn new ideas today, get used to new ideas, so that our brain stops making those associations, making it stops making those predictions, thereby reducing or eliminating that particular bias. We can't really eliminate all biases. That's not possible. And what's even more interesting is that, how it appears right after the quote from The Earned Life, where we just discussed about it, where the past is a different self. You're moving on. You're playing the shot in front of you. What you do right now decides who you're going to be. Well, that was a rather long description, but like I said, there was a lot to unpack. There still is. I've just scratched the surface. Moving on to Kill It With Fire. Popular culture sells the myth about lazy, stupid, uncaring bureaucrats. It's easy to dismiss people that way. Buying into the idea that those kinds of problems are really character flaws means you don't have to recognize that you've created an environment where people feel trapped. They're caught between conflicting incentives with no way to win. So, it really talks about the incentives, how the incentive systems design, or they make or break a system. And sometimes it's very simple to just, as an executive, you just define an incentive that, okay, this is, you do this, you get this. But it has lots of effects, lots of downstream effects, and a lot of unintended consequences. And this is the example over here, where the author is talking about the myth about lazy, stupid, uncaring bureaucrats. But it's really about wrong incentives that are being set. The bureaucrats, they go towards the system because of the incentives that have been set in the system. They're not at fault over here to behave the way they do. It's really the system that's broken. And what this does, like more to the context of software engineering, because this also plays into the idea of software engineering, fixing issues or dealing with issues that crop up in a system, in a software system, or in a system around the software system, is that you might look at somebody not doing the work, and you might say that that's a character flaw, but it's really just about the environment where the incentives are not set correctly. They are caught between conflicting incentives with no way to win, and they are just doing the best that they can, or the worst that they can. Really, it's of course, different situations bring out different uh, attributes within people. So yeah, let's move on. Choose possibility. No matter where we are in life, taking micro risks first can empower us to take more and bigger risks and to achieve more. We don't need to begin the journey to possibility by imagining imminent danger or large loss. Worse yet, we should wait until the unfortunate day when we face a potentially life altering decision to take our first risk. We can begin now and start small in pursuing the simplest of positive goals. I think it's pretty clear. There's not much to say here. Idea is to break your risks into micro risks. So if you feel a certain activity is risky, try out a smaller version first. Find what's the smaller version that you can do completely right now, and do that, and do that little every day. Build your risk taking muscles. That's really the whole message of the book. And this is well supported with research from many other books I've read, and research as itself, where where the innovators, they're not those people who have like a monumental idea one day and they change the world. No, it's really the quality of idea. There is the saying, quality of an idea is the function of quantity of ideas you have. So it's we might always have this, okay, quality versus quantity debate, but sometimes quality comes after quantity. So if you're waiting for that perfect idea to come up, and I mean, that's I'm I'm at fault over here. This is one of the things I do, being a perfectionist, recovering perfectionist. uh, it's really about um, breaking it up, making taking the small risks every day, so that you break out of the barrier, rather than so in my example, rather than having a perfect video that I release once in few months, which ultimately becomes once in few years, I'm doing this video series every day, as imperfect as they are. The perfection is not an intention in these videos, these video episodes that I'm doing. Perfection is not an intention over here. So yeah, moving on. Remote, not distant. Even the soundest decision will fail if it's not supported. Full commitment is required for success. Disagreement is helpful, but at some point, will people gamble with you on it? Will they commit even if they initially resisted the decision? And even though this appears in a book about remote working, it's not really just about remote working. It's really about team buy-in, and that's equally as important in a remote working environment. Right. Let's move on. Measure what matters. It took courage to write an OKR that might well fail, but there was no other way if you wanted to be great. The author is describing their own experiences writing OKRs. I forget at which company. Maybe it was Google. It could have been Intel as well. But yeah, it's like the general notion that OKRs might very well fail, and we are making that public. We are making it. We are opening it up to all the people, saying that we are accountable for this OKR. It took courage. It takes courage. That okay, an OKR that might fail, and for no other. Sometimes it may fail for just intrinsic reasons, not no external reason. But there was no other way if we wanted to be great. Yeah. Nothing happens without sacrifice, right? This is the sacrifice, that our public perception taking a beating, that embarrassment, that public embarrassment, that's sometimes critical to learning. Moving on, the molecule of more. Testing the ability to manipulate abstract ideas, courtesy of the dopamine control circuit, is a fundamental part of how psychologists measure intelligence. This is referring to the IQ test. IQ test is essentially a test that measures our ability to manipulate abstract ideas, and that's really dopamine driven. So this section of the book is really talking about IQ test and its relevance to, or its what's the word? How it is influenced by dopamine essentially. So highly dopaminic individuals, they will ultimately end up with higher IQ scores, and people who are more HNN driven, the other side of chemicals that define here and now. People who are driven more by that, they may measure on the lower side of IQ tests. Like in that 90 to 100 range. So of course, it's in a way it's a criticism of the IQ tests methodology as well. Moving on, stolen focus. It appeared after a long time. They discovered that on average, a student would switch tasks once every 65 seconds. The median amount of time they focused on any one thing was just 19 seconds. If you're an adult and tempted to feel superior, hold off. A different study by Gloria Mark, professor of informatics at the University of California, Irvine, who I interviewed, observed how long on average an adult working in an office stays on one task. It was 3 minutes. Really reflecting, how it is so difficult to pay attention anymore. The book, of course, is called Stolen Focus. So difficult to focus anymore, and we need to build those muscles. We need to build that habit again. To focus on this. I'm sure that this video, which is like almost hitting 15-minute mark right now, I don't even expect anyone to watch 15 minutes at stretch. Even at a speed, sped up rate, even if you're watching this at like 2x, so 7.5 minutes, that's also too much to ask in today's world. In fact, I doubt if anybody is listening to me at all right now. But yeah, there it is. If you're listening to me, let me know in the comments. I would love to be proved wrong. But that's the end of our highlights today. I'm going to skip this as always again because it's 15 minutes. And that's really about it for the video today. It's a new camera setup. Like I said, I've been experimenting with different things. So, new camera, and I'm just going to measure the quality and see how this looks like the compared to the rest of the videos I've been putting up, especially the most recent ones, because again, that was a different setup. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for today. Have a good day. Bye.